Dr. Raymont Anderson, who has added another title. He is a practitioner here. The title I was going to announce actually is
Is what?
President of our Board of Directors.
Woo! Right. Go right.
So you may notice, I think he's the only name on the back of our program that we need like extra lines for. And he's going to share an encouragement with us today. We're very grateful for that.
So how is everyone today? I'm going to ask this question, but I do not want you to answer. Think about it for a second. How are you today?
Wonderful.
Because we often ask this question, right? We'll say, how are you today? And oftentimes people respond with things like, I'm doing okay, fine. If they're really honest and they're not doing well or fine, then they'll say, I'm having a day. You know, people will say whatever they're saying, right? But the question, how are you? Didn't ask how do you feel today. Didn't ask what you're doing today. I asked, how are you? And the how are you question, if you really sink deep enough into your truth, how are you is always great, or greatness itself, magnificent, or magnificence itself, divine. How are you? I'm divine. Like that's the answer to how are you. However, we've been indoctrinated or domesticated or very well trained to think less, to speak less, to deny that divinity, that greatness, that awesomeness. So when someone asks us, how are you? Of course I'm going to say something from this space of less than. You know, today we're talking about this little light of mine, right? Now, remember, I'm a nerd. For those who do not know me, I'm a nerd. And when I listen to music, I always listen to the music for what is it really saying, what does it mean to me. That's why when this is just me, it's me. When I was listening to the peace song, Let There Be Peace on Earth, and it's a future thing rather than a present thing. So I say that to say I'm listening to This Little Light of Mine, which I've heard. Anyone in here not familiar with the song? Not know the song? Okay. So this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. What is this little light? I mean, what is this little light? If I were to ask you to turn the light into a stone, to show me your little light in the form of a physical stone, what size would that light be? Because if it's a little light and it's the size of a pebble, I understand. But at some point, if you say, well, my little light is the size of a mountain, is that still little? And if it's not, then why affirm that it is? So I think about this because there's this passage in this book that you might be familiar with called the Bible, right? And this guy named Yeshua, which many people know by his nickname Jesus, made this statement, said, you are the light of the world. Didn't say you are a light. He said you are the light of the world. If your house is up there, you will shine and people will see it. You don't put the lamp under here, you put it on the table and people will see it, and it will enlighten the entire room, and everyone in the room will be brightened by it. Because you are the light. So in Science of Mind, New Thought, what do we talk about in terms of, well, what is the light? Because there are a lot of, theoretical spaces that a lot of us will refer to and talk about, and little fortune cookie answers that we'll throw out to someone, a thought held in mind. Like attracts. But do we really know how to make it practical? Because that's always been my thing. If I can't put it into practice, then it's trigonometry and I have no use for it. It's just me. How many of us were in middle school or high? If you were in middle school, Carmen's middle school probably does this because they're scholars. They probably do trigonometry in that school. But when I was in middle school, I was still trying to subtract, right? So, how many of us learned algebra when we were in school? How many of us use algebra today in our regular everyday life? Put your hand down, because I know you do. No, but seriously, how many of us?
I do.
Right, put it up, put it up. So, originally, every hand in this room went up. Now there are only 4. So those 4 or 5 people found a way to make algebra practical in their everyday life. Whereas for the rest of us, it's theoretical nonsense mumbo jumbo that I have no use for. How much of our New Thought stuff is the exact same kind of mumbo jumbo that we really don't have use for, but we love it because it's different. We love it because it makes us feel better, rather than we love it because it's the truth. It's a big difference. So the class that I recently taught, from whence we came, last day of class, students had a presentation, and one of the students mentioned this book that he read called One Simple Idea, if I recall the correct title, by Mitch Horowitz. And it's basically a summarized history of New Thought. And he talks about how New Thought is places in our culture in America that you would never expect. Did you know that Ronald Reagan is connected to New Thought? Who would think? 99% of the evangelical ministers today, in some way, if they are prosperity or
Joel Osteen.
I don't even know algebra to do that. Boom, they're connected in some way, shape, or form, but we don't know this. In the beginning of this book, the man prefaces saying, does it work? I'm going to outline everything in this book to answer one simple question. Does it work? Does New Thought work? There's the theoretical stuff, like I said before, whether it's Course in Miracles, Science of Mind textbook, whatever, Charles Fillmore, Myrtle Fillmore's books, and there's a slew of books out there. Reverend Alex just gave me about 100 of them. Which I already had. The other 994 I didn't. So, if we're not putting principle into practice, it stays a theoretical thing. It's great for Ginger to come up to me and say, Reverend Ray, here's an amazing recipe for some red velvet cake. You need to try this. And I say, thank you. And I take it home and I put it in my little recipe book and never make the cake. But I dream about, and in my dreaming about how delicious it is, I think about how delicious it is. Oh my goodness, I love red velvet cake. I'm sorry, I'm not going to get it from the outside edges of the supermarket though, but I love one day. How many of us one day are New Thought principles? One day I will meditate to the degree that Reverend Alex says will change and transform my body, my mind, and my spirit. One day I will go to a practitioner or take a class and take foundations and learn and grow and build. One day I will manifest the job, right livelihood, the spouse, the relationships, the level of forgiveness, etc., etc., etc. One day I will apply principle. But as long as it's Sunday and we're gathered here today and I feel good during this hour that we're here, I'm good. And it stays theoretical. Remember what I said the last time I was here about being so focused in whatever your myopic view of life is that life passes you by. You ate the red velvet cake and didn't even get a chance to taste it on the tip of your tongue because it went straight to the back of your throat. It's the same thing. Do we take principle? Do we take teaching? Do we read stuff and let it go so far in so fast that it doesn't stick to anything? Because if it's not sticking to our bones, then it's not usable. And if it's not usable, it's theoretical. And if it's theoretical, then when life knocks you down, all you're going to do is grovel in the mud and say, rather than, but I know principle. I know who to call. Not Ghostbusters. There's a whole list of people on the back of, I'm going to call a practitioner. I'm going to call Reverend Alex. I'm going to call somebody to know and remind me of the truth that I've already stepped into, rather than telling me something, laying theory on top of theory on top of theory. At some point, we have to say, one, my light's not little. Period. How can it be? Unless we don't realize, acknowledge, or ready to accept or embrace that you're not just divine, but you're divinity itself, showing up in individual human form. You are already sacred and holy and magnificent, regardless of your past, regardless of what thoughts were in your mind before you walked in, regardless of what was going through your mind before I stood up here to talk, regardless of what you say after I go sit down. You can't un-divinity yourself. You can't make yourself any less than you already are. Now, granted, you can choose to hide the light. Hiding it is not snuffing it out. So you can deny it. Oh, like the Wizard of Oz. Do not look behind the curtain and see the truth for what it really. You can hide it. But you denying it is not really doing anything except denying you. And we are not here to deny ourselves. Because when we deny ourselves, we play small. There's a minister at Bodhi Center in Chicago who is doing a month-long series related to light. And one of the things she said the other day on a post that she posted was something related to Icarus. And she was talking about how, there's this Icarus, his father says, Daedalus says, do not fly too high because the sun's heat will melt the wings, the wax, and blip, and you'll fall and you'll drown. But also do not fly too low because the water, the surf will wet feathers and you will sink and you will drown. Either way it goes, you're going to drown. You go too high, you're going to you go too low, you're going to drown. So many things in our culture. Oh, and one thing that she says is, oftentimes when we hear that myth, we forget. People don't remind us, don't teach us about the go too low. Don't go too high. Just ignore the other part of the myth. Why? Because we are taught in so many ways, don't let your light shine. Young lady, how dare you pretend to be so smart? You're so full of yourself. Bring it down a notch. There's so many things that tell us that. And one of the things we were talking about in our class is being an atmosphere. I've mentioned before, when you walk into a space, wherever that space is, and someone just brushes by you, something from you goes to them. There are no accidental meetings. There are no accidental, random, they don't exist, right? Because, how could they? If we are all of one mind, then everybody that's here is meant to be here. And everywhere you go, you're going where you're meant to be, seeing the faces and the people that you're meant to see for whatever reason. So when I'm shopping around the outside of the supermarket, every person that I see when I'm walking there, I'm meant to see. Remember what I said the last time I was here? That one of my prayers is, everyone that I see and everyone who sees me sees the face of God. Everyone that I hear and everyone who hears me hears the voice of God. And everyone that I touch and everyone who touches me touches the hand and the body of God. That means every time I say hello to someone on the subway, every time I look at someone, because I'm not walking through the streets of DC like this, so every time I look at the people playing the drums, I see God. Every time I see kids getting off the bus or getting on the bus, I see God. Every time I turn on the television, the people I see on the screen, I see God. But when I look in the mirror, do I see it? Am I willing to give myself permission to look into my own eyes and see love? Or do I look into my own eyes and see my face and see flaws, mistakes, baggage, scars, stuff that I would really rather not have? Because we have it. Who goes on vacation and doesn't take baggage with them? You take luggage with you. Some luggage is necessary. Sometimes, as Tracy, Sarah, and I will attest, when we go to New York, yes, we overpack. We pack like we're moving there. So some baggage is unnecessary. But why do we overpack? Because, well, what if? What if? I'm going to take 3 extra pairs of shoes because what if I walk through the mud and it turns into concrete and I lose a pair? What if a ninja jumps out the tree and sees my Superman shoes and decides to steal them? I need an extra 3 pairs of shoes just in case. And we go through life with this theory of just in case, because it's based on fear, just in case, because it's based in worry, just in case, because we're not trusting. And you can't trust outside of you if you can't trust you. So we talk about, it's really difficult for me to trust people. You have to earn my trust. Why? That means you're going into it. You are guilty already. Prove to me that you are not. Not you are innocent until proven guilty. But as soon as I meet you, I don't know you, I don't trust you, I'm not letting you in my circle of protection until you prove yourself worthy to me. And if I'm not worthy to me, nothing you could ever do will be worthy. I will always find something to nick and tear down, and always, no relationship could work. I don't love me, how can I love you? No business relationship. Well, we're going to go into business together, but I don't really trust you, but it's because I don't trust me. I feel that you're going to fail me because how many times have I failed me? So how am I going to trust somebody else when the very mirror you have to earn? I have to earn my own truth. No. Why? Why do I have to prove anything to anyone or to me? If I go way back here to that foundational place of I am the light of the world. I am magnificence. I am love. I am source showing up in. I am the infinite showing up in the finite bounds of this thing called a body. I trust because I trust the universe. So that means whatever happens, happens. And I'm okay with it. I will surf. You don't go to the water, and I use this analogy quite often, because you don't go to the water and say, okay, ocean, I really don't trust you. You need to prove yourself to me, because the last time I did this, you threw me off, and bad ocean. Who does that? But what you do is you get on the board, you swim out there, and you go. Even when you know that there's a chance that the waters are infested with shark, how many people still risk and go surfing? The young lady, Brittany, I can't remember her last name, arm got bit off by a shark. Arm got bit off by a shark. Off. Not partial, not off. She's surfing, swim. Why am I moving so slow? Oh, wow, where's off. Months and months and months later, and she hit boom, and I'm and depression, and she went all the way to the basement level of emotional sludge. But eventually, one step at a time, till she got back and she said, okay, I'm good. I can live my life. I'm okay. And then she was challenged. Why don't you surf again? How? You have to be able to swim out there to how. And then working with her dad and whatnot, they reconfigured and trained until she got back out there. Not only did she go back to surfing, she went back to competing and winning. But it's very easy to let the waves knock us down and give up. It's very easy to say, but there's a shark in the water. I'm terrified. I don't want to. It's very easy to take the path of least resistance. It's very easy to go the road most traveled. But if we acknowledge that we know this truth, and we acknowledge that we are open at the top, then we have to acknowledge that there is no plateau for us. There can't be a plateau. And what I mean by that is, you know how people talk about writer's block and creator's block, and I don't know if you have musician's block. I don't know because I don't know. I don't do music. Sherry heard me sing once. She said, "No, Ray, you don't music." So, but we don't do certain things, right? And we hit this moment of and we walk away from the typewriter, or we put the pad and the pencil down because we're not letting the creative juices flow. Well, we feel like they're not flowing. So we talk about this thing, this level, this plateau of I hit this and that's it. Or we'll set the goal as that's my maximum point. If you are the creative impulse of the universe showing up in human form, when or where does the universe stop creating? When or where does the universe stop expanding? Doesn't. Scientists, astronomers, astrologers, like everybody who got anything to do with space and stars are saying, you know, the more we look into the emptiness, the more we're realizing it goes further and further and further than we can even measure, which means it might not end. It might not end. Then why do we live our lives as if there is an end? We walk around and we talk about and we live as if that's the most happiness I can experience, that's the most joy I can experience, that's the most love I can experience. I mean, how many times do people say, you know, I love you, but I love you more than. Like love can be measured. Like creativity can be measured. Like God can be measured. Why don't we today say, you know, the ruler, yardstick, measuring tape, I'm done with it. I have no need to measure, because the moment we start measuring our accomplishments, we start measuring our IQ, we start measuring our bank accounts, we start measuring whatever it is that we are measuring, some way, shape, or form, we are always going to come back to, but he's got more than me. I've got $1 billion, he's got 2. He's got more than me. I need to work to get more than, or as much as, rather than saying, how much do I need to live the life that Spirit wants to live as me? Because there are people who live off of $1 a year and are doing more than many of us with their life and changing and transforming the world. Why? Because they know their consciousness is not limited. Thich Nhat Hanh is doing amazing work about peace and change and transformation. I don't know if the man got 2 coins rubbed together that are his. But we are chasing these tangible things rather than stepping back from these measurable, tangible things and saying, well, what's the foundation? What's at the root? What am I when you take all this away? I'm light. And light cannot be boxed in. It's going to shine regardless. So take the box off, take the limitations off, and allow yourself to at least dream of being greater than you've ever allowed yourself to dream before. What does that look like in your life to say, no fear, no worry, no stress. Who am I? No pain, no baggage, no scars. Who am I? No expectations from anyone, including myself. Just live the best life that I feel welling up inside of me. What and who am I then? And then we have no choice, because then when we're living from that space, every person you see and everyone who sees you has to see the face of God. When you walk into a space, your very presence of love and compassion is going to become contagious. Now, people may say, yeah, I really don't like you because, but when they walk away, something in them is going to miss being in your presence. And they may talk about you, but they're going to end up sitting beside you. They may talk about you, but they're going to want to give you a call, some way, shape, or form. Because, and they may not know, because if you never know what love is, I don't know what this is, but I know I like it. I want more of it. But the moment I know this is love, this is what real love is. This other generic version of, this knockoff version of, I don't know, I'm good. I want pure, complete, unadulterated, genuine love. But I have to be able and willing to love me that way, to accept me that way. And the moment I do that, nothing can hold me back. And nothing can hold you back. Let's ground it. In this moment of simply allowing ourselves to breathe and be breathed, I speak these words knowing that they are already true, already whole, already perfect, and already complete. Simply because they are not being spoken by me, the personality, me being Ray, but they are being spoken by the divine itself, through me, in me, and as me. And so the words that are being spoken are the words of God to God, about God. And those words are, God is all there is. Love is all there is. Infinite magnificence, peace, power, prosperity, joy beyond measure is all there is. And if that is all there is, then that is the truth of who and what I am in the flesh. And knowing that it is the truth of who and what I am in the flesh, I know it is true for each and every one of us as well. Everyone in this room, everyone in this building, everyone in this city, state, country, planet, and beyond. Each and every one of us is love made flesh, magnificence made manifest. The infinite showing up in the finite form of this body temple. And knowing this, I know that there are no possible limitations, levels of consciousness that could deny this truth. So right now, I speak this word knowing that we are moving forward. That I am allowing myself to expand in consciousness, and as I allow myself to expand, each and every one of us does as well. Expanding in consciousness, demonstrating life in its fullness, love in its completeness, divinity in its sacredness. I am grateful to know this truth. I am grateful to be able to speak this truth. I am grateful to be able to live this truth. With confidence, assuredness, I release this word into the law, knowing that it must return unto me as spoken. This is so, and so it is.
So it is.